A už ti naredil intro? Ali?
Čak, sem se ponavljal. No, enkrat sem zadobil za tvojega dejte. Tole. Še live sem, black screen. Ja.
Zdaj bi moglo...
Black screen je tam. Tam na preview ga boš.
Ja, vidim. Sem pa čez šico manj, oziroma wait.
Živa. Imamo ful zamika. Štiri minute. No, daj.
Okay. So thanks for coming today. Today we have a lab sessions plus live stream for a bunch of students who cannot attend this specific session. So you're an Erasmus student and ti si pa naš, pa ti si tudi. Okay. Awesome. This lab session will be held in English because we have a lot of Erasmus students who are also viewing us online. And as I said and mentioned in our emails over Učilnica, we'll have a bunch of live stream sessions, like lab sessions, where we'll work on our projects directly week by week. So it's going to be a bit easier for you to follow and to know what to do. In terms of the subjects themselves, you've already seen a glimpse of the topics this year, and you have a longer explanation posted on Učilnica. And I'm sure you've all checked it. Today we have Amedea with us, who'll begin with the session. We're going to go through a specific methodology you'll see, and we're going to try and follow that methodology in a way that it's going to help us to produce maybe a better application, better product. At the end of the live stream session, if you have any questions, you can post them on Discord channel or ask them directly. And we'll also send an email with this week's tasks, which have to be completed by the next week, so we can then follow up with new things to do. Okay, thank you, Amedea.
So, hi everybody online and welcome to the 3 people who joined me. I encourage more of you to show up so we can have a little bit also of discussion, not just me presenting to the camera. So my name is Amedea. This has been my 3rd year helping Mateusz to do something fun around this subject, actually. I'm a UX designer, I'm a product lead. I've been doing this for 15 years. I also have a UX school called Screensavers, so you see on the screens. And we'll be spending some time together. So for next few weeks. So the first thing I want to talk about is a little bit of the logistics. We have 5 weeks left in the 2025, so Mondays, this timing between 11 and 1, we'll be doing kind of a lecture and live stream. So together you're very, very, very welcome to join me. We're doing this for 3 weeks, so also next week and on the 15th. And then on Wednesdays, there are slots between 2 and 4 p.m. online where you can get me and we can do the consultations. It's 15 minutes per group, but I would ask you to book it a day in advance so I know who's coming, when you are coming, and things like that. And this is what will happen every Wednesday until the week on the 22nd, and on the 22nd, which is Monday, we'll do just the consultations, so you will be already doing like finishing tasks, working on your apps. Because in 2026 we only have 2 weeks left, so the first week we'll have consultations online, both Monday and Wednesday, and then week 7 on the 8th there will have presentations of the first group, and on this is not Wednesday but it's Thursday, so when the lectures are we'll have the presentations, so actually the exam for group 2, because there's 145 of you, which is a big group. So what we will be working on, so not an upgraded version but just a version of an app. So you will be building an app based on the topics that we prepared. Mateusz already mentioned, it's in the Split Naučilnica. So with each group you keep the same groups as you did in the first part of this class. Each group decides which of the projects you will work on. There's four topics. So the first one is developing student financial literacy. Everything, I won't go into details now. Everything you need to know is in there, and then you will do your own research, you will do prototyping and all the things. Second project, getting students more politically and socially active, preparing students for career success, and supporting student mental health. So when we were deciding about topics, we decided to have them student oriented, so it will be easier for you to actually go and talk to people. Another thing that we thought about was this is one of the classes where we really encourage you to use AI in all ways possible. The only place where you should not use AI is to fake the interviews. So go talk to real people, do user testings. That's important, and that's also the thing that we in the industry still do in person. But everything else, use AI as much as possible, because we will also expect results of high quality, because this is an opportunity. Go wild, you can do really cool stuff with this, and we'll be here to support you. So any questions up until here with the logistics? If there are any questions for everybody else, put them in Discord. We have Discord and we will answer them. So we won't do this in pairs, but I will ask the three of you to help me. I will ask you to find an app that you think has a good user experience. So can you think of an app that has a good that you would say has a good user experience? It can be app, it can be service, it can be an object. I will wait until one of you speaks.
A good user experience is probably Travana. It's for buses in Ljubljana. A user can see where the bus is or all the stations, the exact time.
The exact time.
Yes, it's pretty good.
Okay.
Personally.
So, can you just repeat what would be everything that makes it good?
So you can see all the stations.
Okay.
You can see where the bus is exactly, so the live location. And because of the location, you can also see when exactly will the bus come. So you don't have to, for example, sometimes buses can be late for up to 20 minutes or later. And in that case, if someone uses the app, they can.
You can plan.
Yes.
You can plan. You can see when
Yes.
they're arriving. You can see if you can light a cigarette, not that anybody does that anymore, or things like that. Okay, thank you. An app with a good user experience or a
I don't know, VS Code maybe.
okay, VS Code.
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell me a little bit about it? What does it do and why would you say it has a good user experience?
Well, it's a text editor, I don't know. Well, it's modular.
It's
Modular.
It's modular.
Yeah, you can add plugins or whatever you need.
Okay, so you don't have to build anything from scratch, or you can reassemble, or what does it do, the app?
Lets you edit text.
You edit text.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else explaining why, for you, it makes a good user experience?
Because it works, I don't know.
It works, yeah. Usually that means that it doesn't do things that you don't anticipate. It means that you always get what you expect to happen on the screen, yeah? It helps you achieve stuff, whatever you need to do. So these are all what we want from apps. So what makes another task? Now I want you to think of a bad user experience. So an app, a website, something that you dislike, that you would say has a bad user experience.
Well, I can think of EU Prava, naročanje.
Okay.
So for scheduling appointments. And what is it called in English? Pravilnota.
Yeah, municipality,
Yeah.
something like that.
So I use it multiple times and it doesn't refresh properly. You have to sign in multiple times to get in, so it's just not functional as it should be for government website.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, that's the first thing I thought of.
Okay, cool. Anybody has any other examples of a bad user experience?
Outlook maybe.
Absolutely. Why?
Because why can't I use that damn email with another app? Why does it have to be Outlook?
Okay.
Why do I have to log in each time I open the damn thing?
All valid questions.
And why does it split all the emails into focused and other? And then I don't get the notifications for other. And then important mails go to other. Like cancellations of like lectures and stuff.
Perfect. a very good example. So, like what we are seeing from or hearing is it frustrates us when things don't work as we do or we expect them to do. Things that we miss, information that we don't get, things that take us to sign in multiple times, and then we lose focus, we lose time. It's frustrating. We've done this before. Like, why doesn't it just work? So interfaces are communication between us and devices, right? So interfaces help us tell the devices what they need to do. And the devices need to tell us back what kind of information they need from us to help them do that. And one of the things that we as humans really like is control. This is why we like apps where we can see when the bus arrives. That's why Uber was such a hit, because finally everybody knew when the taxi is coming right away. That's why Volt is really successful, because you can see in your hungry state when the food is gonna arrive, and you can prepare, and you have this feeling of control, which is very important to us as humans. So I want you to take this, and when you will be thinking of your apps, of your solutions, think how you can take these principles and build them in. So when you're building your app, how can you make it in a way to not frustrate the people that are using it? And here we do assume that you might be some of the users. Okay, so what we're actually going to do today, we're going to talk a little bit about design process, an overview. We're going to talk about discovery versus implementation, because that are two separate types of thinking and process and stuff. We're going to talk about interviews, and then the exercises I will just show, and this is something that you will be required to do till next week. Okay, so how we think. Mateusz, can we do, is there like a contrast thing here? So how do we think that companies innovate? We think that companies like gather a lot of information, and then they do a lot of thinking, and then they crunch the numbers, they discuss, and then they have this awesome idea, and then they plan and plan and plan and lessen the risk, and then they launch something, they do an implementation, and then there is the happy result, which is usually money. The thing is that this part still usually does not happen. So usually what happens in companies, and yes, in the big ones, the ones that we read articles about, these things are changing, but still slowly. What usually happens in most companies, there's a person who is usually the boss or somebody on top who has a great idea, and then we don't do any kind of research, and we just go into the implementation because they are sure. And then this end result is not there, because it's their assumptions, the assumptions weren't checked, and they weren't validated. So this is not what happens. So how the innovation really happens. And here I don't mean innovation in ways of, I don't know, building a new rocket that runs on different kind of fuel, that kind of innovation. I mean even like smaller things, building new apps, building new solutions, things like that. So first part is we need to have qualitative and quantitative data. Qualitative, we'll talk a little bit more about it later, but qualitative means actually talking to people, observing people, and quantitative is data, analytics and things like that. And then from this research we get lots of insights. So what is insight? It's something that we have proof for, and since we have proof, we know it's true. And there's a lot of them, and then we have a lot of small ideas of possible solutions, of changes, of improvements and things, and then we bring it into a process of prototyping where we try these little things, these little changes on, we measure them, we get feedback, we iterate, we change them, and then at some point something new emerges that has the wanted result of success. So the first part is actually building the right thing, because this is something that we forget a lot of times. We don't know what we are building. We think we know what we are building. And then building it in the right way. So this building in the right way means maybe taking an agile approach to it, building it in increments, building it, releasing it, getting feedback as soon as possible, prototyping, things like that. So in Slovenia, we're getting good in building in the right way, but this part is still lacking. So actually investing in research, investing in gathering data, even before we build or before we write a single line of code. And this is something that you will be doing during our time together. And feel free to stop me, interrupt me, ask me anything. This is supposed to be a discussion. Okay. So we'll talk about the process a little bit. So unfortunately, what you don't see here, but you will see in the slide, or you see very, like, these are the diamonds. So this is called a double diamond because there are two diamonds, and it's a visual representation of design process. There are quite a few how you can do this, but what I like about this was done by Design Council in UK, because it actually shows you what kind of thinking do you need while in which phase. So how it's supposed to start? We have a question, a vision, or a plan, and we go into a discovery phase. In discovery phase, we need divergent thinking. So we're opening up. We're looking for as many information as possible. We're looking at desktop research. We are talking to people. We are observing what our potential users are doing, how they are solving the problem now. We collect analytics, we look at competition, so anything that gives us information about this space. And then we progress to define phase, where we go convergence, so we need convergent thinking, meaning that out of all of these things that we have collected, now we're trying to make to go into more focused thinking, and here we decide on opportunity, brief, or challenge. So you can already see, usually we start with the brief, right? Somebody comes and they're like, oh, here is the brief, this is what we need to do, and then we go and we start thinking about solutions. what we need to do is actually discover the space, get enough information about it, figure out what is true and what is not true, test our assumptions, and then find the real challenge. And this is also something that you will do during your projects. So the first thing you will do, you will create research questionnaires, you will look at other apps that are solving similar problems, you will discover this area, and then you will find a problem that will fit the topic, but might not be, it won't be. So for, if I give an example, mental health for students is a very, very broad area. It's really hard to solve everything in it. So after the research phase, after the interviews, after getting insights, you will find that there is a narrower problem that you can solve. Maybe it will be you will find out that people don't hang out as much as they used to, or that they are missing spending time with others, and you will think about solutions, how you can get people together. You might find that students have an issue with finding therapists or getting professional help or things like that. And you will think about how can we bring professional help closer to them. So everything fits into the bucket of mental health, but those are smaller, narrower issues that then we can solve. Because solving problems that are too big is impossible. And it also is discouraging, and it really can't be done. So if we can find a small thing, then we have better chance of actually solving it. Okay, so now that we have this opportunity, this smaller, this brief, this challenge, something narrower, we again go divergent. So we prototype, we develop. And development here does not mean necessarily code. It means looking for solutions, and looking for solutions, not one solution. So we've been taught for our whole lives that there's always one solution to a problem, and that you should never come with a problem but always with a solution. And we jump into this space, and here I'm asking you to discover this. So it's another kind of discovery. What are every question has infinite amount of possible answers, and here every solution has infinite amount of possible variations or sorts. So here we'll prototype. You will think of different options that you could do, and you will test them. So then we go into delivery phase. Again, trying to converge, so going through all kinds of prototypes, converging, finding the one. And this process then continues into other diamonds. So we can repeat this part, we can repeat this part, this continues. So what we will end up here is with deliver will be your presentation of the app, of the problem you were solving, who are your users, what is your solution, you represent the app, and you'll have a version of it that will already be tested. So this is something that we do. And if we were doing this in real life, then there would be another part where we would have to explore the technological possibilities, talk to developers, make changes, present this to stakeholders. So this process is ongoing. Any questions here? Okay. What I forgot to tell you is that this looks super clear and straightforward. You start here and you just straight line. No. Usually, sometimes you come on a project and you start here. And you have to finish this phase, and then you go a little bit here, and then you go a little bit here, and a little bit here. So this process is messy, but this presentation makes it nice and clear. So when you end up in real world, it doesn't really look like that, and it definitely does not feel like that. But every stage where you are is basically combined out of an understanding phase and trying things out. Okay, so I already talked a little bit about this. We have two spaces if we look at the diamonds. So these are discovery spaces, and the first one is a problem space, and the second one is the solution space. So we can do discovery. Discovery is a fancy word for research, because when you come to a client, when you say research, everybody gets freaked out, and now we call it discovery, and it's a little bit easier. We have two spaces. So the first one is problem space, because we're trying to understand as much as possible around the problem. This is important because of the thing that I mentioned before. We were trained our whole lives to go into solutions. And whenever we start talking about a problem, we start thinking about solutions right away. But the point here is to actually stop ourselves before and try to understand as much as possible around the problem. Because understanding the space will give us many more opportunities, will give us more ideas about what solutions could be like, and will make, in the end, better products. We stay in problem space to really understand, to look at what has already been done, and to find all different ways or angles that haven't yet been covered or haven't been done well enough. So once we start thinking about solutions, again, we don't build something that has already been done, or we do it badly, or because there are many, many different reasons why an app fails, or a business fails for that matter. And then solution space on its own is also a discovery space. So we're discovering how different solutions work. We test, we iterate, we discuss business opportunities, we discuss technological opportunities, things like that. And this is also discovery, but just on solutions. So when you will be also designing your questionnaires or looking at competition, always think about what is the problem that competition is solving with that specific solution. How are your potential users solving this today? Does the problem even exist? Because sometimes it happens that either the problem does not exist. For example, we did like these service design workshops, And there's always a group of people who believes that putting young people and old people together is a great idea. And then they think of, oh, like the elder could teach us how to cook and things like that. And then we send them to do interviews in the city center of Ljubljana, and there is 0 grandmas that wanna, at least in Ljubljana, that wanna teach youngsters how to cook because they just don't wanna deal with it. So it's always important to understand where does the problem exist, where are the opportunities, who has them, what is already solved, and of course also why. Okay, so why are we doing discovery? Usually we do the discovery in the beginning, and then we do implementation, then we release it to the public, right? We go into production. And I don't know how much experience you have already in this space, if you're working or not, but fixing things in production is much more expensive than fixing things when we're still in discovery. So this is about cost. And if you ever need to defend why we need to do discovery, why we need to do research, this is a good slide to show. Okay, so if we go back to the difference between problem space and solution space, is in problem space we are discovering what problem might we solve. So we're in the problem. And in solution space we're trying to assess how well is our solution working. So how well have we done, how well have we thought about it, how well is this already underway, meaning that we already have a solution that is in progress. That's why it's also more precise. So user testings are an example of discovery in solution space. So we have already built something. Now we're testing this with people so we can see if it works, what they actually think of how we solve this. And we're assessing existing, which also means it's an evaluation. Well, in problem space, we don't have a solution yet. We're discovering the problem. It's messy. We're looking at different things. We're looking for new insights, and it's generative because we are producing stuff. And then if we talk a little bit about methods, qualitative, quantitative, the difference is with qualitative we have direct contact with people. These can be interviews, observations, user diaries, things like that. And like a general number is 5 to 8 per user group is enough. Of course, it depends on the context, it depends what kind of apps are you building. If you're building something for like general population, you need more of this because you have different user groups. But for what we are building here, 3 to 5 to 7 people is already good enough. It gets you 80% of the for example, in user testings, it gets you 80% of the issues. We're looking for insights, so looking for things that are new, things that we didn't know, or things that confirm what we heard anywhere else in other interviews. So things that keep popping up means there's a signal that this thing that we keep hearing is true. We're interested how people are solving these problems already. We're trying to understand the motivation, what is happening, why is happening, how is happening, and is quite broad. While with quantitative, we don't have any direct contact with people, so it's all the analytics, the surveys. We need large numbers of participants, so we actually can get out patterns, and we have like a statistical relevance. And it's very specific. So one of the things that we have also been taught is that surveys are a valid research method for all kinds of things. So when we were in high school and even in primary school, they taught us how to do surveys, but they haven't taught us how to do them well. You can do surveys if you're gonna get a lot of participants, and if you can do the research questions well. Surveys, there are a few things about surveys why I recommend everybody not to do them, is because we lie on surveys, because we, the people who then fill them out, we think we are better than we actually are. I will give you an example later. And it really, really takes a lot of participants to actually realize that something is a yes or a no. Another thing that with surveys is we rarely get contextual information. So anything around it, we can't ask additional questions because we're not there. We can't necessarily understand what people meant because nobody likes to write long answers into those boxes. So, for example, a survey that will give you a little bit more of an understanding. I had a kid in, now he's already in school, but he was still in kindergarten, and the kindergarten did a survey on how happy we are with their services. And on one page there was a question around how important is the food and nutrition to you as a parent. Of course, I'm a good mother, very important, of course it was a 5. And then on the next page there was a question of how happy you are with the menus in the kindergarten. And I realized that I never look at the menu. So one is behavior. Am I really that interested? Is that really so important to me if I never look at the menu? So we have to always look for behavior, not what people say. And we'll talk about this also in the interviews. Okay, and then on qualitative and quantitative methods, so we have generative, evaluative. In qualitative, we have user interviews, stakeholder interviews, which are similar but more on business sides of things. Observations, meaning we go into for example, if you would be building something for healthcare, you would go into primary doctor's office and you would sit there and you would observe what everybody does and you would map it out, for example. User diaries, you would, I don't know, you're building an app that deals with habits changing, and you would get a set of people who you would ask to use the app every day and write down what they were thinking, feeling, or something while they were using these apps. Concept validation, this is something that you will be doing here. So after the discovery, we create the first solutions, and we call it a concept, and we validate with users. So, meaning we get first feedback on how good our solution is working. Usually, it's different to usability testing, which is next on the list. Usability testing is then when we already have high fidelity designs, when we have all the screens and we're just checking if all the buttons are visible, all the text can be read, and things like that. Quantitative market research, so looking at competition, looking at potential in the market, looking at potential user groups, so everything that can be done either online. Competitive analysis, looking at different apps, what are their features, what are their user bases, how they do things, what is their focus, things like that. Surveys that we mentioned, desktop research, I don't know, you're doing something in pulmonology, you have to understand the diseases there. And then evaluative, so A/B tests, things that we do already in production usually, analytics, screen recordings, things like that, which are super helpful, but many times we get stuck, or companies get stuck in, we're going to build this and then we're just going to plug in analytics and everything will be well because numbers are exact. It's really problematic if you don't know how the analytics were built into the app. What are they measuring? What answers are they giving? Because analytics can be really easily interpreted in a way to confirm what we are already thinking. So you can manipulate numbers superbly, actually more than what users are saying. Analytics are great if we have a lot of users, but they work especially well when combined with other research methods. So what we are striving for in practice is to actually do both qualitative and quantitative, so kind of a mixed methods thing. Okay. 2 more slides and then we can do a short break. So, product validation. So here we'll be talking about apps, aka digital products. Before we launch something, we need to validate 4 things. And validate, I mean not prove that we are right, but validate, check if we are right. So first, we need to validate the problem. Means that it actually exists. We know there's a user base that doesn't have this problem solved. Validate the market, so that there is enough people who would pay for this kind of thing. Validate the product, so how well is our solution addressing this problem for this market, and then validate willingness to pay. So rarely we have a business model that is financed in any other way than users paying for the thing. So as soon as possible, as soon as we can test the willingness to pay. Sometimes this is, you might have heard of these experiments called the fake door, when you click to pay and then they say, oh, we actually can't serve you right now, but we will put you on the email list and we will let you know when you will be able to buy this, because they're looking for signals that people are actually prepared to pay for their solution. And the most important slide of all, what we're trying to do with research is or what we have to be aware of while we're performing research is our own bias. So we're human, we're flawed, we have some existing beliefs, and then it's very easy for us to find evidence that supports our belief. And that makes us feel good because what we are thinking gets confirmed. What we should do in research is the hard work. So we set up hypotheses, so the thing and our assumptions, so the things we think are true. Work this into questions that will provide answers if they are true or not. Gather and analyze evidence, so making sure that we collect all kinds of feedbacks, and then we test the hypothesis. And then we continue doing that. So sometimes it's good to assume this mindset of really trying to prove yourself wrong. Why? Because you might save some kind of business a lot of money. And that's important. It doesn't make sense to build things, and development, even though it's all around us and you probably are going to work in development, it's really expensive. It's really expensive. So building stuff nobody needs, it's good if we don't do it, even if it's writing code. Okay, can we do a 6-minute break? And we're back 12:15, so, or 12:17. Okay, so we have, when we talk about discovery, we have a few rules. Rule number 1, product design puts the user in the middle of everything we do. Yeah? Meaning designers are usually the people who will defend the user the most, because business stakeholders will defend the business, developers usually protect the tech and their workload, and we fight for the user. So the more we talk to them, the more we can have their point of view in our mind. And if I'm very romantic in our hearts, then the better solutions we can then provide them. Which is usually also good for the business, but not every business understands this. Rule number 2, also very important, you or your boss or your client is not the user. So sometimes it happens that you are also the potential user, but don't build things based on what you think. Always go and talk to different people so you can have different viewpoints, so you don't build something just for yourself, but you actually build it for your target groups of users. Because how you think or your boss or your client thinks is not necessarily the same as everybody else. So we always need to check. We or them are the basis for our hypothesis, and then we go and check them. Okay, now I'm going to talk about user interviews. It's really interesting, but it's really hard for many people to do interviews, to go to interviews. But interviews are just talking to people. We ask questions and we listen. That's it. That's the whole science. And of course, it's important how we listen, that we're active listeners. It's important how we ask questions. And we ask questions that start with who, what, where, how, and why. And everybody, most of us know that assumption is the mother of all. I won't say what. And what we're trying to get in the interviews is we're trying to understand contexts. So we're trying to look for behavior. We're trying to understand where this problem happens. I've said this now, I think, 6 times at least. We're trying to understand how the problem happens, how they're solving it, how they're thinking about it, what is important to them, what motivates them. So all these kinds of things. Good questions for user interviews are any questions regarding that would show us behavior. Tell me about the last time you did something. Tell me about the worst experience you had with something. Tell me about the best experience you had with something. Because from these answers, what we get is usually stories. And stories convey both what actually happens and all the emotions. And if we listen closely, we can understand what is really frustrating, usually also why. From frustration, we can realize what is important and what is not. And also the things that people only say with their faces, with their posture, with the intenseness in their voice is important information for us as researchers. So how do we usually do user interviews? First, we write down assumptions. This serves two things. First, it's checking in with ourselves, what we already think, so we make it aware, right? We make an awareness of what we assume is already true. Second thing that this does is it creates a basis for the interview questions. So from these assumptions, we can form questions that will confirm or not confirm what we think is true. We arrange questions from broad to narrow. What this means is we list all the questions and we rearrange them in the sense that we start with very broad questions. For example, I don't know, we're talking about food in the kindergarten. They asked me, so how important is food, right? In general, for me as a parent. And then they asked on a separate page, how often, how happy I am with the actual menu, right? So it's much more narrow than the first one. So what you're trying to, in the beginning, assess kind of the field and how they think around it, and then go more into the specifics. Testing the questionnaire is also something that we don't do, or we think that it's not necessary. But testing the questionnaire means taking your questions and doing a fast version of this interview with somebody that's not necessarily your end user, potential end user, so somebody that you would be doing the interview with. This could be a colleague, this could be somebody from your project group or another student, somebody that you're not doing the interview with. Why do we do this? Because it's interesting that only then we can see how good of a questions we are actually posing based on how good of an answer do we get. There's a bit of magic in the posing questions. So if you have a very, very good question, you can get a very good answer. And if you have a shitty question, you get a shitty answer. So it's good to test this so you don't waste an actual user or your target audience for something to figure out that, I don't know, 10 questions are missing, or that there's something that's not formed in the right way. When we talk about questions, also we try to avoid the closed questions, so yes, no, because they don't really give us anything. If we do them to check something, then always have some kind of question that asks the person to explain more about this topic, whatever you're asking. So, I already mentioned your best experience, your worst experience, last time you did this, last time this happened. So look for stories, always look for behavior. Because what we are thinking, or even asking questions in the future, would you use this if we built it? Sure. Would you pay for this? Of course. Not necessarily. What have you paid for? What is important to you? So behavior shows what our mind and ego actually don't want to admit sometimes. It's like New Year's resolutions. On the 1st of January, everybody's doing everything, and then in the 15th of January, nobody's doing anything anymore. So we're not good at posing questions. That's why we need to test the questionnaires, play around with it, because you will see that different types of questions give you different kinds of answers. Okay, so what are elements of a great question? We're aiming to learn, not to confirm. This is something I already mentioned with the validation. So sometimes it's also about the way we ask. If we ask in the way, so I'm thinking this, and would you say that this is true? And I keep nodding, and somebody might say, yeah, sure. Like, you feel like somebody that needs my validation, yeah, sure. And they don't necessarily think the same thing. So it's important that we check out our bias. One of the things that happens, especially with founders of the apps who do research and ask these questions, they're trying to confirm, they're trying to sell. What we're doing in user interviews is discovering, we're learning. We're not trying to confirm, we're not trying to sell, we're not trying to convince anybody to buy what we will be potentially selling. So we're trying to stay in the problem space. Know what you don't know, meaning having this willingness to learn the things that I have no clue about. And like I said, with writing down assumptions, knowing where I don't have information, knowing what I think is true and will probably steer me in the direction of something. So being aware of what I'm thinking, what I'm knowing, what I'm researching. This is also knowing your blind spots. And then context is king, already mentioned. Stories, behaviors, how people do stuff. The devil is always in the details. We already mentioned this. So scientifically, we have an insight, so meaning we know that a statement is true when we can confirm it from 3 different sources. We don't usually do so much scientific stuff here, but pay attention to what will be the things that will keep popping up, what will be the same things that you will keep hearing. And one of the biases, so we have like, I think there's around 30 different types of biases that are in our minds. And one of them is that we hear and remember things that confirm and validate what we already think we knew. So it's also really important that when we do the interviews, we record them and then we go through them again. Sometimes even write them down word by word, because it's really funny, well, not really, but it's really interesting how many things we kind of dismiss or forget or not actually hear. And the word of advice, if don't let ChatGPT analyze your interviews because it does a shitty job. It really does a shitty job. It changes things. It discards things. ChatGPT is trying to make you happy, and it's really bad. So this is something that do the interviews on your own and do the analysis of interviews on your own. But you can use ChatGPT or anything else to help you generate questions, to help you do competition, to, you know, all these kinds of things. Perfect. Interview analysis. Okay, so we won't be doing this right now. This is something that you will do in groups. But there's a link to FigJam, which has all of our all of the instructions for exercises that you need to do. So the first part is interviews with users. So what we want you to do this week is decide on a topic, create a questionnaire, test the questionnaire, do 3 to 6 interviews. So there's 3 to 5 of you in your team. If everybody talks to one person, perfect. You don't have to over-engineer it, overthink it in terms of just talk to people. If you can do a video call and you can record it, perfect. If you can only do a phone call, that's fine too. The best setup is to have 2 people on the interview. If you cannot do that, it's fine, okay? Just, it's more important that you have this experience of talking to people, because this is something that you will have to do for the rest of your life, probably in different setups. Even if you're just writing code, you'll have to talk to people. So it's a good exercise. And okay, so you do the assumptions, the questions, starting the questionnaire, doing the interviews. You will create your own FigJam file where you will put in the insights in whatever way feels good for you. So one of the good things is to kind of have a transcript and then do separate like post-its where you can combine the themes or things that you have learned from it. If you need any help with this, first opportunity to talk with me is Wednesday already, which means you need to book it tomorrow. So Wednesday between 2 and 4, we can do this. I can help. And you need to post the FigJam into the Split Naučilnica. Mateusz will prepare everything. Any questions about the homework or anything related to the projects right now? Everything clear? Okay. Okay, yeah. I already mentioned AI. I will mention it a lot. So do not do fake interviews and testings. Do not let AIs analyze the interviews. Do this. That's what human needs to do. And regarding everything else, yes, use AI as much as possible in all stages. You can use it for prototyping, you can use it for design, you can use it you'll have to figure out a little bit which apps to use, also based on what are the capabilities of your team, if somebody has a license that is paid or things like that. But there are many, many, many options. And we will ask you in the exam how much AI was a part of your process and where. Okay, so we already talked about homework, 2 user interviews. No, this is not right. So do more your bigger groups. So do 3 to 5 at least. And if you're super ambitious, the more interviews you will do, the better your work will be. And you can use the same people that you've done interviews with also for testings later on. Creating your research wall, so your Figma space, FigJam space, you can put in, you can also do competition, you can do market research, you can look at other apps that, so explore. People ignore design, that ignores people, very simple, and Braveheart said it best. And here in these slides, where which will be posted, uploaded to the Spletna Učilnica, you also have here in the end a lot of resources on different aspects of research and design. So this is it from me, Mateusz. Any questions before Mateusz stands up?
Okay, I hope this works. All right. There were no questions from Discord channel, but otherwise the instructions are pretty straightforward, right? Okay. I'll write you too long didn't read email, so there's going to be another too long email on Učilnica for those of you who might be joining us later on or have missed the live stream. The live stream recording will also be made available on Free TV Studio channel, so you'll be able to check it on later. Otherwise, Amedea has the schedule for individual consultations for the individual groups posted, and see you on Thursday during the regular classes, and for the live stream we'll see each other on next Monday. All right? Okay, thank you for joining us, and see you on Thursday.